Here's the moment that broke me. Not finding the spreadsheet. Not seeing 214 scored entries going back 3 years. Not even the running lifetime average of 5.3 out of 10 that my husband and his mother had quietly assigned to every dinner I ever cooked. The moment that actually broke me was a single line buried in the coaching column, the column where Gloria, my mother-in-law, told Eric exactly what to say to my face. October 2024. She had written, word for word, "Tell her the food tastes like something from a hospital cafeteria." 2 days later, Eric sat across from me at our dinner table and said exactly that. Said it like it was his own thought, like it just came to him. I cried that night. I remember it clearly. I excused myself and cried in the bathroom for a good 10 minutes wondering what was wrong with me and why I couldn't get anything right. But those tears weren't a reaction to my husband's honest frustration. They were the planned outcome of a script his mother had written in advance and handed him to deliver. My grief was choreographed. And I didn't know any of it until I found that spreadsheet on a Tuesday night when Eric fell asleep on the couch and left his laptop open. But to understand how we even got here, I have to take you back to the beginning. If this kind of story hits close to home, you're not alone. We share real stories people submit every day, and every single one of them is wild in a different way. Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss them. New ones go up all the time. My name is Danielle, I'm 31, and my husband Eric is 33. We've been together 7 years, married for 4. We live in a 3-bedroom ranch in Overland Park, Kansas, about 15 minutes from his parents' place, and that detail is going to matter a lot more than you'd think. I'm a dental hygienist. Eric works in logistics for a distribution company off Metcalf. We were actually planning to start trying for kids this year, which makes everything that happened so much worse. I want to be upfront. I'm not a professional chef. Never claimed to be. But I genuinely love cooking. I taught myself during COVID when I was furloughed from the dental office for 3 months, and by the time I went back, I had a solid rotation of about 40 recipes I was proud of. Italian stuff mostly. Some Thai dishes I learned from this one YouTube channel. I think it was called Palin's Kitchen or something like that. A beef stew my Irish grandmother would have approved of, and trust me, that woman was brutal about stew. Like, she once told my aunt her broth tasted like dishwater. At Thanksgiving. I meal prep every Sunday, I plan the week, I shop with a list, I try new things twice a month. I put real love into feeding us. But apparently that wasn't good enough for one particular person in Eric's life. Eric's mother, Gloria, is 61. She's from a big Italian-American family in South St. Louis, the kind where Sunday dinner is basically a religious obligation, and the red sauce recipe might as well be locked in a vault. When Eric and I started dating, I actually asked Gloria to teach me some of her recipes. She showed me her braciole technique, her fresh pasta method, her trick for crispy eggplant parm without deep frying. I thought we were bonding. I thought she genuinely liked me. Yeah, wrong on both counts. The first sign something was off came about 6 months into our marriage. Eric started dropping these little comments at dinner. Nothing huge. Just stuff like, "Did you use enough salt?" Or, "This is a little different from how my mom makes it." I brushed it off. Who hasn't heard a husband compare his wife's cooking to his mother's? I'd smile, say something like, "Well, I'm not your mom, but I think it's pretty good," and he'd shrug and eat it. But those little comments? They were about to get a whole lot worse. One night in fall 2023, I think it was a Tuesday, actually no, it was a Wednesday because I remember I'd just come from my late shift, I made a butternut squash risotto I'd been really excited about. Nailed the texture, freshly grated Parmesan, toasted pine nuts on top. Eric took 3 bites and said, "The rice is a little gummy. I think you should have used shallots instead of onion. The sweetness competes with the squash." I just stared at him. Since when does Eric know the word shallot? This is a man who once asked me if cilantro and parsley were the same thing. I didn't push it. I just filed it away. And honestly, I really wish I had pushed it because what was going on behind the scenes was way worse than anything I was imagining. Then came the brisket incident. February 2024. I spent 14 hours on a smoked brisket. Set my alarm for 4 in the morning on a Saturday, and if you've ever smoked a brisket you know that's not even early, some people start at midnight. Monitored the temp all day. Wrapped it in butcher paper at the stall. Let it rest for 2 full hours. The bark was gorgeous. The meat was pink and juicy and falling apart perfectly. Eric ate half his plate, then said, "The smoke ring is decent, but you went too heavy on the black pepper. And the fat cap could have rendered more. A little chewy in spots." I felt like I'd been punched. I asked him when he became a pitmaster, and he got defensive. Said he was just giving honest feedback. Then came the line that became his favorite. "You should want to improve." He used that line constantly after that. After my pad thai. Noodles are slightly overcooked. Real pad thai needs more tamarind tang. You should want to improve. After my homemade ravioli. Filling ratio is off. Too much ricotta. You should want to improve. After a simple Wednesday night spaghetti, like literally just barilla and sauce, my mom adds cinnamon to her sauce. Have you tried that? Every single meal. Every dinner. A critique that somehow always traced back to how Gloria would do it differently. And I had zero clue there was a literal database behind all of it. I started to dread cooking. That's the part that kills me. Something I loved became a source of anxiety. I'd stand at the stove basically rehearsing my defense before the food was even done, which, looking back, is so messed up. I'd plate everything and watch his face on the first bite, trying to read if the critique would be gentle or brutal that night. My best friend Haley, we've been close since KU. She noticed I'd stopped posting food pics on Instagram, something I used to do all the time. I made some excuse about being busy. The truth was I didn't feel proud of anything I made anymore. But I was about to find out exactly why. Now, I want to be fair to Eric for a second. Outside the cooking thing, he's a decent husband. Does his share of housework. Handles the yard and car stuff. Generous with money, like he never questions anything I buy, ever. Good to my parents. When my dad had his knee replacement last year, Eric drove 45 minutes each way on I-35 to visit him 3 days in a row without me asking. He's not a monster. That's what made the cooking thing so confusing. It felt like this one bizarre blind spot in an otherwise functional marriage. Turns out it wasn't a blind spot at all. It was a whole operation. Okay, so. Last Tuesday night. Eric fell asleep on the couch watching the Kansas-Baylor game. KU was getting demolished, by the way, so I don't blame him. His laptop was open on the coffee table, and I needed to look up something for a dental conference registration. My work laptop was in the car, and it was like 20 degrees out, so I grabbed his. His Gmail was up, which isn't unusual. We don't snoop on each other. But right at the top of his inbox was a Google Sheets notification. Meal tracker, updated. Eric has never once expressed interest in tracking meals or nutrition, or anything like that. I almost scrolled past it. I swear I almost did. But something made me click. The spreadsheet was shared between Eric's Gmail and Gloria's email. The title at the top read, Danielle's Cooking, Performance Tracker. Performance. Like, I'm a quarterly earnings report. The columns were meticulous. Date. Dish name. Category. Overall score, 1 through 10. Seasoning score. Texture score. Presentation score. Comments. And the final column, the one that made my hands start shaking. Mom's coaching notes. 214 entries. Going back to January 15th, 2023, roughly 6 months after our wedding. Scores ranged from 2.5, that was for a chicken stir-fry I threw together after a 12-hour shift. Comment said barely edible, she clearly didn't try, to a high of 8.0 for a birthday lasagna. Even the best thing I ever cooked only got an 8. The running average at the bottom, auto-calculated with a formula and everything, said 5.3 out of 10. I had a lifetime average. In my own kitchen. From my own husband. But the scores weren't even the worst part. The coaching column. Gloria's entries read like performance reviews from a psychopath. Tell her the garlic is overpowering. She needs to learn subtlety. Mention the crust was soggy. Don't let her think this was acceptable. Bring up fresh versus dried herbs again. She needs to understand fundamentals. And then I found an entry from October 2024 after I did a Thanksgiving practice run. The turkey was adequate, but she still doesn't brine properly. Tell her she needs to take it more seriously if she's cooking Thanksgiving for the family. Suggest she come over and watch me do it. Frame it as a bonding activity, so she doesn't get defensive. Frame it as a bonding activity, so she doesn't get defensive. Read that again. Gloria literally coached her son on how to manipulate me into accepting her criticism as love. And it worked. Eric came to me that October and said, "Hey, my mom was wondering if you'd want to come over and prep the turkey together. She loves spending time with you." I was touched. I thought it was sweet. I spent an entire Saturday at Gloria's house while she subtly corrected my technique and told me stories about making turkey since she was 19, and I came home feeling like a scolded student. I even thanked her. God. I thanked her. And then I found the entry I told you about at the very start of this, the one that finally broke something in me. The hospital cafeteria line. The one Gloria had typed 2 days before Eric said it to my face, and that brings us right back to the moment I opened with. The realization that my tears that night were planned. That there was a script. And he read it. I sat on that couch for over an hour reading every single entry. Crying by about row 50. Furious by row 100. And by row 200 I was just calm. That scary kind of calm where you've already made up your mind, and the emotion has burned through to the other side. I walked into the bedroom. Eric was sprawled out, snoring. I turned on the light. Eric, wake up. We need to talk about the spreadsheet. He mumbled, squinted at me. What spreadsheet? And then I watched it happen in real time. Confused to panicked in about a second and a half. He sat up fast. Danny, hold on, let me explain. 214 entries, Eric. You and your mother have been grading my cooking like a term paper for 3 years. You planned what hurtful things to say to me. Coaching notes. Explain. It's not what it looks like. It's always not what it looks like, right? Then, my mom just wanted to help you improve. She sees how much effort you put in, and she wanted me to give you constructive feedback so you could get better. I asked him if he heard himself. I asked him if he understood that constructive feedback is when someone asks for your opinion, not when you build a secret database to catalog their failures. He got flustered. You always get so upset when I try to give feedback. You take everything personally. Mom suggested we keep track, so it could be more organized and consistent. Organized and consistent. Like the problem with secretly grading your wife was that it needed better project management. I almost laughed. Almost. I told him to call his mother.
Right now.
He said it was midnight. I said I didn't care. He refused. I said fine, I'll call her myself. Grabbed my phone and dialed. Gloria answered on the third ring, sounded half asleep. Gloria, it's Danielle. I found the spreadsheet. Nothing. Just breathing. Then, Danielle, sweetheart, you're misunderstanding this. I love cooking and I just wanted to help you. I cut her off. You wanted to help me by telling Eric to say my food tastes like hospital food? You wanted to help me by giving me a 2.5 when I was exhausted from a 12-hour shift? You wanted to help me by coaching him to manipulate me into thinking your criticism was bonding. Nothing for like 5 seconds. Then her tone shifted completely. Cold. Like a switch flipped. Danielle, I've been cooking for over 40 years. I fed a family of 6 on 1 income. I know what good food is. Frankly, if you can't handle honest feedback from people who love you, that says more about you than us. Eric came to me because he didn't know how to tell you your cooking needs work without you falling apart. I gave him the tools to communicate with you. Eric, standing behind me, nodded. That's exactly what happened, Danny. I'll be honest with you. Part of me wondered, and I hate admitting this, is my cooking actually bad? Am I the crazy one here? I went back and reread some entries, trying to be objective. That 2.5 chicken stir-fry? Yeah, it was a bad meal. I know that. I was exhausted and basically threw whatever was in the fridge into a pan. The overcooked pad thai noodles? He might have been right. Fresh versus dried herbs? Legitimate advice. But here's the thing. If Eric had just said, hey babe, try fresh basil in this, it's a game changer, I would have been totally fine. If Gloria had pulled me aside in her kitchen and said, let me show you a garlic trick that'll change your life, I'd have been grateful. It's the secrecy. The database. The coaching notes. They treated my cooking like a performance review, and me like an employee who didn't know she was on a PIP. A performance improvement plan for anyone who hasn't had the pleasure. And what happened next made it really clear this was never about helping me get better. I told Eric that night, something about him tracking my scores going up like I was a stock he was monitoring, that was reason enough for me to leave. I grabbed a bag, threw in whatever, didn't even check if I had matching shoes, and drove to Haley's at 2 in the morning. She opened the door in her old KU hoodie, took one look at my face and said, couch is made up. Wine's in the fridge. Didn't even ask what happened. That's a real friend. I showed her the spreadsheet the next morning over coffee. She read through it with her mouth literally hanging open. Her exact words, Danielle, this is unhinged. Like, clinically. But then she said something that caught me off guard. His mom is clearly the puppet master here. Eric's a mama's boy who can't say no. That doesn't excuse it, but you need to figure out if the problem is Eric or Gloria because those are 2 different problems with 2 different solutions. I stayed at Haley's for 4 days. Eric texted constantly. Day 1, defensive. I don't think I did anything wrong. I was trying to help. Day 2, shifting. I talked to Jake about it and he said I messed up. I'm starting to see your side. Classic Eric, needing another man to validate what his wife already told him. Day 3, full apology. Danny, I deleted the spreadsheet. I told Mom we're done. Please come home. Day 4, a long text I'll summarize. He said Gloria suggested the spreadsheet after he casually mentioned I was still learning to cook. She framed it as tracking my progress, like a helpful thing. He went along with it because in his house growing up, Gloria's word on cooking was basically law. Nobody questioned it. He said he never thought about how it would feel from my side. Here's where it gets complicated and where I go back and forth constantly. I believe him. I believe Gloria is the driving force, and Eric was the weak-willed accomplice. But he's 33 years old. He's not a kid. He should have known this was wrong. He should have pushed back the first time she suggested it. Instead, he let his mother build a database of my failures and delivered her lines at our dinner table like a puppet. Some of those dinner critiques weren't even his opinions. They were Gloria's words coming out of his mouth. He was basically reading off a script. And it turns out this pattern went way beyond just my cooking. I went home Saturday. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where he'd critiqued 200+ meals, and I told Eric 3 things. 1. Set a firm boundary with Gloria about our marriage, our home, and our meals. 2. Give me a real apology, not "I'm sorry you're upset," but a genuine acknowledgement that this was a violation of trust. 3. Prove he can form his own opinions without consulting his mother's notes. He agreed to everything. Called Gloria right there at the table with me listening. "Mom, the meal tracking is over." It was wrong. "You need to respect our marriage." Gloria's response, and I could hear every word because he had the volume up. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? I spent hours helping you, and now she's turning you against me." Classic. Eric held firm though, I'll give him that. "Nobody's turning me against you. But Danny's my wife, and this stops now." Gloria hung up on him. That was about a week and a half ago. Gloria hasn't spoken to either of us since. Full silent treatment. Eric's dad, Gary, called a couple days later, sounding exhausted. "Your mother is very hurt. She feels like you chose Danielle over family." Eric told Gary the whole story, and to my surprise, Gary was on my side. Said, "Eric, your mother means well, but that spreadsheet thing is nuts. I didn't even know about it. So at least one person in that family has some sense." But here's what really got me. Eric's younger sister Tony texted me privately, out of the blue. For what it's worth, Mom did the same thing to Marcus's wife about her housekeeping. She had a whole checklist. Kristen doesn't know about it. Gloria has a pattern. She does this. She secretly evaluates the women her sons marry and coaches the boys on how to manage them. Like it's her job. When Tony told me about Kristen, I honestly felt sick to my stomach. Part of me wants to tell Kristen. Part of me thinks it's not my place. I keep going back and forth, and I still haven't decided. Eric's been making a visible effort since I came back. Hasn't criticized a single meal. Actually gone the opposite direction, almost annoyingly complimentary, like, "Oh wow, this is amazing," about literally reheated leftover soup, which bothers me in a different way. I don't need a performance review, and I don't need empty praise either. I told him, I just want normal. Eat the food, say thanks, and if something genuinely isn't good, tell me like a normal person. Not like a Yelp reviewer with a grudge. I've cooked 3 times this past week. Each time I stood at the stove feeling self-conscious in my own kitchen, wondering what score this would get, wondering about the garlic, wondering if Gloria would approve. I hate it. I used to cook with my Spotify playlist going and a glass of cheap Trader Joe's wine and feel like I was creating something. Now I feel like I'm being tested. Haley thinks I should insist on couples therapy before we even think about kids. My mom was furious when I told her she wanted to drive up from Wichita to have words with Gloria, and honestly, I almost let her. My sister said something that keeps me up at night. Imagine a spreadsheet rating how you parent. We've got our first couples therapy appointment next Thursday. Eric is trying. I'm trying to let him try, which is harder than it sounds. The spreadsheet is deleted, but I screenshotted the entire thing before he got to it because I'm not stupid. Now here's the update that made me decide to actually share this whole story publicly. I posted this in a Reddit thread and went to bed, but the next morning something was bugging me. Eric said he deleted the spreadsheet, but Google Sheets tracks revision history. So I checked. The spreadsheet wasn't deleted. It was moved. It's still sitting in Gloria's Google Drive. She just removed Eric's access, so it would look deleted on his end. Gloria still has every entry, every score, every coaching note. All 214 of them. Does she plan to keep grading me through Eric without the spreadsheet? Is she going to show it to people? Is this like her insurance policy for when she tries to turn Eric against me later? I haven't told Eric about this yet. I was sitting in my car in the dental office parking lot when I found it, shaking again, and I just sat there for like 20 minutes staring at my steering wheel thinking about how every time I think I've found the bottom of this thing, there's another layer. But here's the thing. Last night, I made my grandmother's beef stew. The one I mentioned at the beginning. I put on my playlist, poured a glass of Pinot Noir, the good stuff this time, not the Trader Joe's, and cooked it exactly the way I wanted to. I didn't think about scores. Didn't think about seasoning critiques or coaching notes. Just cooked. When it was done, I served it to Eric and he took a bite and said, "This is really good, Danny." I looked at him and said, "I know it is." And I meant it. My coworker Jess said something at lunch on Friday that stuck with me. The spreadsheet isn't the problem. The spreadsheet is the symptom. The problem is that your husband lets his mother co-pilot your marriage.
She's right.
The question is whether Eric can learn to fly solo.
I'll find out Thursday at therapy.
But one thing I know for certain, whatever Gloria has saved in her Google Drive, whatever score she would have given that beef stew, I don't care. Because my grandmother's recipe doesn't need a rating. And neither do I.